Welcome in, everybody, to our 50th episode of the Godly Young Men podcast. Joe, we made it.
We made it.
We made it to episode 50. We have been kind of teasing it for a while.
That's right.
Of what we're going to do different. As you can see, brand new studio. At least studio decor. We are in the same place, as you can tell. Same windows, same stuff on the walls, but upgraded our chairs a little bit.
We're upgrading a little bit, yeah.
Upgraded our center table. Hopefully, it looks a little more comfortable.
Yes.
I guess the other
Yes.
with the table and the kind of ugly chairs, I don't know, it didn't seem very comfortable. So
This is definitely comfortable. And hey, let's just say last one of 2023 as well. So 50 and the end of 2023. The fact that those kind of align perfectly is actually that's
day
really cool.
after Christmas.
Day after Christmas.
Merry. Hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Also, we were gonna put some Christmas lights up or something, but figured it wouldn't go well with the new chairs and stuff.
Not exactly.
So we just
Not
kind of
exactly.
left it out. But seriously, it's we talked about it I think it was 2 episodes ago, how much we love this time of year, all the things that come with it, and so hope everybody's enjoying this time of year. We're going to keep rolling with the Godly Young Men podcast. This is not our final episode. We've got several more lined up as we head into 2024. And Joe, our topic for today, it's funny, we're kind of trying to think of like, what are we going to talk about for episode 50?
Right.
What's a big grandiose topic that we can discuss? And, we didn't come up with anything like just ultra groundbreaking, but I think and I'm going to give you full credit, what you kind of settled on of what we should talk about for this episode really is a good way to wrap up the year. We're turning the page onto, 50 episodes as we kind of chase 100, I guess you might say. And so get us into, for our Godly Young Men, what are we talking about today for episode 50?
Yeah, it's the idea of self-examination. As you hit the end of the year, I think it's really important to be able to examine yourself. Where are we at? How have I done? Where are we going? And, we've done one on goal setting.
Yep. Episode 2, actually.
Episode 2, all the way back at the beginning of the year. We hope that you were doing it. We'll get to that in a little bit. We're going to review some of that. We also did one on self-awareness, and just being more aware of yourself. We don't want to double do. We're not looking to go back and do the exact same thing, but I do believe at the end of each year, you have an opportunity to kind of take inventory. Some people look at the new year and they go, it's another day. Who cares? It doesn't really matter.
I don't do New Year's resolutions.
Exactly. I don't do the resolutions, and I don't really take stock of the year. Like, I could do that in July. Like, but do you? You know what I mean?
Nobody
Like,
does.
Nobody
right.
actually does. So we look at it as, look, this is the start of something really exciting. 2024 could be the best year yet. And so it's just a natural progression for us to take stock, really, of what the year is. And you look at, like, even the president does this. State of the Union addresses every January where he goes, where are we? What are we working toward? What have we been doing? And so even the president of the United States does this exact thing, kind of examines himself, examines the state of the nation, where we're at. That's all we're looking to do, is to take inventory.
And why this matters is because as you go back to why we started the Godly Young Men podcast, obviously our first episode talking about striving for greatness, it's the idea that we want young men to be asking themselves, where are you going?
Right.
Basically, what are you doing with your life? Like, where are you headed? Do you have somewhere that you're aimed towards, or is it just kind of, I don't know, I'll figure it out. I'm kind of aimless. And, we've talked about that a lot throughout our 50 episodes, but that's kind of the heart of this is like, as a 16-year-old or as an 18-year-old or however old you fall, listening to this, do you know where you're going? Like, do you have a direction, or are you just kind of, bebopping around? Like, again, Joe, when we started this podcast, that was one of the big things you talked about of like, it's just aimlessness. There's a lot of aimlessness. That was in our teaser actually for episode 1. I remember all the way back for the first episode. And so that's kind of the point of all this is you're not just going day to day, bebopping along, let me see where the week, where the year's taking me before you know it, you've wasted 5 or 6 years. Where are you headed? Yeah. And part of that, I guess that process starts with kind of examining yourself and examining where you are, examining your past year, as we're about to kind of talk about. And so, now, Joe, this is something... Go ahead.
I was going to say, you and I each have a way that we do this, which I'm sure you're about to get into. And I think it's interesting because both of us came to this. We haven't really talked about this. I think we each have our own rituals. My wife and I have been doing this for a long time. I think you and Rachel have been doing this for a long time, where we take inventory on the year. Again, not something we've discussed, but something that both of us came to on our own as to... We think this is really important. So each year we travel together as our families go to Florida. And that's when my wife and I sit down. It was usually over New Year's. Now it's, I think, a week or two into. But it's early enough in the year where we sit down, we look at the beach, whatever it is, and we just talk about the year. What went right? What went wrong? What do we plan to do this next year? Yeah, exactly. We take inventory. And so that's kind of our thing is we find a peaceful spot, make sure the kids are not near, maybe they've gone to bed, whatever it is. And then we stay up and we just talk about the year. Again, what went right? What went wrong? What are we going toward? Are we on the proper trajectory? What absolutely has to change? And what's an immediate change we can make in January? So sometimes we've done like a Whole 30 where we just want to get As soon as we get back from Florida, we get on this, Whole30 program.
Diet plan. Or
diet
not
plan
diet,
for,
but
yeah, basically an elimination diet for 30 days. Very, very strict. Whatever it is that's going to jumpstart the year, we look at that and say, what can we bite off immediately to start the year right? So that's kind of our ritual. How about yours?
And we do something Rachel and I do something very similar. We've both always been kind of New Year's resolution people. We'll have individual goals that we're setting, and they almost always come down to us for 4 categories. We've got physical, like exercise or food or something like that, spiritual, financial, and then some kind of personal, usually like a reading goal or something like that. We do those individually, but one of the things we started doing last year, we're going to continue to do this year is, okay, we've got our own individual goals. What about together? It's kind of like you were talking about. What do we want especially now that we have 2 kids, this is something we're trying to incorporate a whole lot more, is where do we want our family to head this year? What do we want to do for our Bible study time as a family? What do we want to do for our Bible study time as a couple? What do we want to do financially? We're going to completely tear apart, not a big budget guy, we're going to tear apart our budget.
We will.
And basically build it from the ground up again and see. I mean, we spent so much money on eating out this year. I don't want to add it up. I'm going to add it up, but it's going to be very embarrassing with how much. So full disclosure, we budget a certain amount of money every single month for eating out. This is not relevant to the topic at all, but it's funny, so I'm going to share it. I think we blew through it by $50 or more 10 out of 12 months. We are not disciplined when it comes to eating out. That tells me our number's too low. But anyway, stuff like that, where we take inventory of financially for our family, spiritually for our family, even things like our routine, our routines at night, me getting up, for work and things. Just what are some things that would bring us closer together? And so you might be listening to this going, great, I don't have a family. Start now with yourself of like, look at your past year, look at your habits, your routines, maybe some things you're like, man, I really want to do better at XYZ area. It's a whole lot easier to start this now when you don't have a family than to all of a sudden get organized 5 years into marriage with 3 kids. Oh, let me figure this out. Kind of get in the process now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we want to get into is we're going to break down on this outline, past, present, future. I think that's one of the best ways to look at it is look at the past year. How did it go? Where am I presently at? What am I doing in the present? And what's my trajectory for the future? We don't know the future. We can't, but we can prep for the future. We can get ready. And so with that in mind, the question we have to ask ourselves is really, how are we doing with what God has put in our care? He's asked us to take dominion. Some of us, for me and you, we have kids, we have a wife, we have jobs, we have things, underneath us and in our care. How are we doing with those things? And that's the self-examination point. For you, you may be 15, school is underneath you, right? Or maybe you are mentoring a young kid. Even
household
if you're 15.
chores.
Household chores, exactly. Things like that. Maybe you have a pet that you're supposed to take care of. How am I managing those things? How am I taking care of what God has put in my life? Faithful in little, faithful in much, right? So this is to prep for the new year as to, again, past, present, and future. So let's go ahead and get into the past. We talked, like we said, the beginning of the year, 2023, the second episode was set goals because it's really, really, really important. We're big believers in that. We're talking about that. We set goals every year, individually, couples-wise. The question I think you have to ask yourself immediately is, what goals did I set? I hope you were listening. I hope we have some people that have followed through that did set their goals. But the question is, did you meet them?
Right.
Right now is a time to go back and just to take inventory. And some of these may be 5-year goals, 10-year goals. We understand you haven't met that, but are you on the trajectory toward meeting them? And so, basic question, but did you set goals? Did you meet them?
There's it's kind of a trope that a lot of people just kind of set goals and then don't really ever follow up with them. Like, oh man, I really want to get better at this, and so I'm going to start doing this. And 4 weeks later, somebody asks them about it. It's like, what? Oh yeah, I did have that goal. Like goals just kind of disappear. They just kind of magically vanish a lot. And we've talked before about how a lot of that is because people don't write their goals down. They just kind of have them esoterically in their head, and it's like, oh yeah, I have a goal. Well, no wonder.
I did want to do that. That's
right. No wonder it vanishes and disappears, like a magician. And so, this is one of the things that we're so big on is set goals and actually keep up with them.
Yeah.
If you've got a goal, and I'm just going to pull something out of thin air. If you've got a goal to read through the entire Bible in a year, follow up. How far did you go? How far did you get? Hopefully you made it all the way through, but a lot of people don't. They set that goal, they get through March, and then they stop. Same thing with finance. If you set a goal to set aside $20,000 or something for the year, and then you fell short, like Joe's saying, you ask why. Why did you not make it? Why did you only make it through numbers or something like that?
Right.
Why did you only pull a 3.2 GPA instead of whatever? There's all kind of goals that you could be setting, but it's important not just set the goals. You actually have to follow up, and even if you don't hit the goals, you circle back, take inventory like we're talking about, and figure out, why did I not hit them?
That's right.
Why did I stop with my Bible reading plan? Why did I do really well at going to the gym for 2 months and then, April through December I stopped? Like there's so many different areas of life that you can set goals. We encourage you to set them in episode 2. We're not really talking about those specific areas of life with this episode. It's just more of an overall point of figure out what went wrong. Yeah. Figure out what went right. If you had a goal that you hit, hey, how were you successful at it? But unfortunately, a lot of people, again, they just kind of set the goals and then the goals vanish.
Yeah. If you didn't set goals, it still is worthwhile going back and looking at the year and saying, what was my year all about? I didn't really set any goals this year, so I can't. No, you can still self-examine. You can look back and go, okay, did I make progress this year at all on anything? That doesn't necessarily have to be a goal you set out ahead of time. If you are fantastic at Assassin's Creed or whatever, and you know nothing more of the Bible, it's good to look at the past and go, man, this was not my best year.
It might be hard to look at. It might be painful.
That's right. This is why you have to take a long, hard look in the mirror. We talk about that, right? Like, take a hard look in the mirror. But seriously, that we use it as a cliche, but I really think it's important that we physically do that. I do this for my clients. It's really, really awkward, believe it or not, to look yourself in the eyes, in the mirror for like longer. We usually do it and kind of fix our hair and okay, we're looking good.
But it just stare at yourself.
But like
in the
to
mirror,
stare at yourself. Insecurities start coming out. What thoughts start coming out in your mind as to, do I like this person in the mirror? Am I proud of this person in the mirror? Do I think this person really took the time this last 2023, this year? Did I really do what I set out to do? Have I really had an accomplished year, a year that I'm proud of, basically? And if it's a year, and maybe that's an easy question, am I proud of the year that I had? If you're not, why not? If you are, why so, right? And then we can see, can we repeat that for 2024? And if not, then we need to examine what went wrong. We need to change it.
So you've got journal on here as far as accomplishments and failures, and journal them out, write them down, whatever. That's a huge thing that that obviously both of us would highly recommend. As we head into 2024, look back over your past year. And if you're like, man, well, I can't remember that far back. Fine, 6 months, whatever. Look back a little bit. And I would encourage you, write down 3 things. And I would start with the positive. Write down 3 things that you think went really, really well this year.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your study habits. Maybe you got your first real big-time job and you didn't call out. You showed up. Maybe you got a raise. Whatever it is. Maybe you did read through the New Testament or something. Maybe you did Last of Leaders. Maybe there's all kind of stuff. Write down 3 things that really, really went well. Study habits, whatever. And then write down 3 things that didn't go well.
I love that.
I think it does me personally so much good to see it written out on paper and to see it, because it forces you to think about it and it forces you to kind of evaluate and examine, what did I do well? And again, hopefully you could write down more than 3, but I think limiting it to 3 each gives you room to kind of be confident and feel good about what you did. I mean, we're not saying, man, look back over your year and see why you were terrible all year. That's not the point of this. The point is to examine and to take the inventory. And so that's what I would say is write down 3 of each, 3 accomplishments, 3 failures. However small or however large you want, it's going to do a lot for your self-awareness. I
love that. And the reason why it's important to do the accomplishments, you and I are both fix-it foxes. It's incredibly easy to look back and go, man, I blew this and I didn't do that and I didn't do this and I didn't do that, and you're like really down on yourself.
The metrics that we have to hit at I work at Chick-fil-A and we have certain metrics we have to hit. We never really look at the ones in green. It's like, oh, whatever. We always look at the ones in red. Like, what's the problem? How can we fix it?
We know we're doing that's fine. But what about the problems? Make sure you don't do that too much to yourself. Make sure you actually are writing. I love that idea of the 3 accomplishments. Make sure you're writing that down. Take time for the accomplishment. Well, I know what I'm doing well. No. Sit in that.
Yep.
I'm doing this very well, and I'm glad. I'm proud of myself for doing that. That's okay. It's not a haughty thing. That's okay. So, once again, take inventory of the past. How was this year? I want to move into the present, though. This is coming out, I believe, on the 26th. So today is the 26th. You got a week left in 2023. About to hit 2024. We've looked at the rest of the year, the last year. You're going to take this next. That's what we want for this week. We're kind of giving you homework, I suppose, just in the middle of it. You got a week to think about what went right, what went wrong, everything we just mentioned. Now, we're in the present. This is kind of it's tempting to look at the future, look at the past, and okay, the present is where we want to understand our motivations. Why are we doing what we're doing? Because maybe you had a horrendous year, spiritually related. What are you doing spiritually now? Why did you have it? That's what we talked about, right? We want to understand the why. What's our motivation for having a better year? And if it's just because, well, I just feel like a really bad person, okay, that's partly this conscience speaking, but we really want to get the why dialed in, because if the why is I want to please God to the best of my ability, that's why I'm doing spiritual things, that's why I'm helping people at church and showing up every time the doors are open and reading and praying and everything else. if the why is correct, you'll be fine.
Yep.
Whatever you set into the future is going to succeed. What we're really trying to warn against and work on in the present is fixing it for burnout in the future. If we can understand why we're doing what we're doing, and it really is the proper motivation, it's going to be okay, right? We're not going to burn out. But if it's whatever it may be, I work hard because I'm trying to honor God, because I'm trying to hit these goals, whatever it is, versus, I don't know, some negative reason as to why we work hard, or, because I'm supposed to, or because my mom wants me to, or whatever else it is. Those aren't real reasons. That's not legitimate reasons. So I think present is a good time to just understand, where am I at in life, and what are my motivations day by day, and what gets me out of bed, basically.
I think it's very interesting to me that as you're young, and I would still very much consider myself young, where are you kind of always constantly looking? Future, right?
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait to get my driver's license. Okay, I got my license. Man, I can't wait to graduate. Oh my goodness, can't wait to graduate college. Can't wait to have my own family. Can't wait to be married. Man, I can't wait to be more financially stable when I'm in my 30s. Man, I can't wait till
retirement.
Till my kids get out of the house, until I'm always looking to the future.
Yeah.
We think you should look to the future. That's part of having vision. However, you start looking all the way to the future. Then you get to 60 or 70, and what do a lot of people do? Look to the past.
Yeah.
Right? Man, glory days. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Da, da, da. We don't think about the present very much.
No.
We don't often think about right here, right now. What am I doing today? What am I doing this week? A lot of it is about, and again, you need to keep all three of those in perspective. Yeah. What mistakes did I make, or what things did I do well in my past? How can I learn from those? Also looking to the future and being a visionary. But I think we skip over that present step a lot. Like right now, today, what are you working on exercise-wise? Relationship with God wise, relationship with your friends and family wise, education, academics. What are you doing right now? And can you be doing it better? What are some things that are going well? Again, we can get so zeroed in on the future, the degree that you want to finish with, the job you want to get, the wife you want to find, whatever, right now.
Yeah.
Focus on right now.
I think that's very, very well said. I say it from the existential point of like why are we here and what we're doing, because once again, the past doesn't necessarily provide context as to what our purpose is, and the future doesn't really exist. So we can't really look to the future for the existential questions like, why does my life have meaning, and what am I looking to do, and what am I currently working toward, right now? Like, all of those things are present, and like you said, we have such a difficult relationship with the present. Yep. Because it's everything but right now. Past, future, whatever it is, I want to. And we talk about living in the moment. We really don't know what it means to live in the moment. That's one of the issues is, well, why don't you just live in the moment?
I'm guilty of this, of like, man,
what does that mean?
Man, I want to have this much money in my account by this time. Man, I can't wait till Jackson's old enough to do X, Y, Z. And oh my goodness, I can't wait till I can have my... Chill out.
Right.
Enjoy right now.
And living in the moment, there's a big aspect of gratefulness, I think, that comes in of like, I'm just grateful where I am. So the biggest piece of advice I think we could give for, obviously, past would be taking inventory of what went right, wrong. In the present is be grateful and be a little existential. Be thinking about the big picture of things. Be thinking about, what am I currently working on, and what am I working toward, and what is this all about? Like, if you know your motivations, if you know your why, if you know what gets you out of bed every morning, savor that. Yep. Be appreciative of that. Be grateful for that. We'll go ahead and get us into the future.
Yeah, let's talk about the future. Because, again, like I just said, we don't want to be so present focused that we have no vision. All of a sudden we look up and it's like, man, where am I type of thing. And so a lot of this, when we're talking about kind of examining the future and examining your own future, is you just kind of have to ask yourself, what is your trajectory? Again, kind of where are you headed as a person, as a spiritual being, as somebody who's trying to grow their relationship with God, as somebody who, again, academics, whatever area, which direction are you headed? Are you kind of going downhill? Are you going in the right direction, going uphill? And you're like, man, how do I figure that out? I think everybody kind of knows. I think you can kind of have a common sense perspective of like, okay, let's talk about finances for a second. Financially, what's your trajectory? Are you putting money away every single month, or are you losing money every single month?
Are you spending more than you make?
Yeah. Surplus or deficit's pretty simple, right? Spiritually, I think you can actually probably have a pretty good gauge on that as well, of like, I'm not going in a great direction, or I really am going in a great direction. Academically, same thing. Work-wise as well. Are you in a rut, just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, bare minimum employee, or are you actually moving towards? So, like, I think this is more common sense than we think of, like, as we're saying, okay, well, look at your trajectory. Well, how do I do that? I think it's pretty easy to do. Of like, again, with your work, with your academics, with Maybe you're hunting for a spouse. Maybe as you're developing, working on traits yourself, maybe you've watched some gym episodes about, preparing to be a husband and preparing to lead a family. What's your trajectory on that? How are you doing on developing those things? And I don't know. I think it's easier than we make it out to be.
I agree. Also, the reason why we say trajectory, expect dips.
Yeah.
You will have issues where you're going to have days you're unmotivated. You're going to have weeks where maybe you just didn't nail your goals. That's okay.
You don't have to be perfect. Right?
Correct. Is the trajectory going up? If you were, like I was talking off air about, well, I have all these big goals. Yeah, but you spent the last month, every single moment that you had, free moment, playing video games. What is your trajectory? You can talk a big game. Oh, I'm going to do this and that, and I set this goal and that goal. Good for you, but are you actually looking to accomplish it, right? Is your trajectory one of, okay, I didn't accomplish the goal today, but I did actually go to the gym, right? I haven't hit my 20 pounds down or whatever, but I did go to the gym.
Yeah.
I did say no to that milkshake that somebody offered. Like those are the trajectory steps. And you know what? There's going to be a time where you end up eating that Snickers bar and you go, man, I shouldn't have done it. Yes, but is the trajectory overall better than not? So the future is undetermined, of course, but I agree with you in the fact that it's a lot easier, I think, to understand it. My dad has a great quote that says, I don't think it's native to him, but how you live your days is how you live your life. That's as true as can be. If your days, day by day, are doing what you're supposed to do, you'll find that that's how your life goes. So if you are going to the gym every day, you'll find you lose weight. You're a lot healthier. How did you get there? Day by day by day going to the gym, and you recognize my trajectory is such that my goals are going to be met.
This is where the goals come in, like setting goals. Again, we had an episode on it. We're not going to delve too much into it, but when we're talking about the future, we got to talk about setting goals. And so I brought up a second ago kind of the different areas, and let me kind of share, again, something that I'm going to do this year with Rachel and then individually as well that I haven't really done before, and that is I kind of typically just set week-to-week goals. I want to work out 4 times a week, or I want to save this much money a week, or I want to study the Bible, this many days a week, whatever. I kind of this year want to do it a little bit differently and kind of do it in the sense of like businesses do it, which is at the end of 2024, where do I want to be? Again, let's talk about money. Let's talk about spiritually. Let's talk about exercise, whatever. Fill in the blank. Academics for some of our listeners. At the end of 2024, this is where I want to be, and then backtrack it. Go month by month.
Right.
How do I do it? And then backtrack it even more. Week by week, how do you do it? And even then, day by day. For instance, I always set a reading goal. This is actually the first year I have not hit my reading goal as far as books, total number of books. Yeah, life got crazy, and that's a goal I failed. It would have been so much easier if, and books is a little hard, maybe pages type of goal. You go month by month, you go week by week, and then you go day by day. And it's bite size. You're not looking at like, man, I've got to get to this point by the end of 2024, when if you broke it down and went day by day, week by week, that's how businesses do it for the most part. That would be what I would recommend. And so set these goals, Joe, if you want to get into all these areas that have, again, served us well in our accountability group and things like that. But that's what I would encourage you is kind of look at where you want to end up, and then work on, okay, how are you going to get there? Again, day by day, week by week, month by month.
Yeah, and this all connects because you look to the past and go, where have I gotten it wrong in the past?
Right.
It's important to look at the past. What do I need to do in the present? And this is looking to the future. So I love that idea of planning out, this is what I want to, where I want to be by the end of 24 and backing it up. Spiritual, physical, financial, intellectual, relational, those are the kind of the goals that we set out. I think we talked about 4 of those. I think I may have added relational. But when you're looking at setting goals, spiritual, physical, financial, like those are the type of things that we're looking to do. So spiritual goals may be, I want to have, and it's got to be something that's specific. I want to have
very specific, yes.
A good prayer life. Oh, that's not specific.
I want to draw closer to God. Come on.
Right, exactly. How do we know that you're actually that you've reached that? So if you say, I want to be praying 3 times a day for 10 minutes a day. Okay, that's a goal, right? We want to have that Daniel prayer life. And so maybe 3 times a day, 10 minutes a day. I want to have that by April.
I want to study through, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but to use my year-end thing, I want to have an in-depth study through 6 books of the Bible by the end of the year, like in-depth study. There you go.
So break it down.
That's very specific, yeah.
We need, you got 2 months for each book, and so plan it out. Maybe Genesis is going to take 3 months, but Philemon's going to take 1. You know what I mean? Like, so break it down month by month, week by week, exactly as Will's saying. So those are ideas of spiritual goals. Physical goals, it's hitting the gym. It's I'm going to lose this much weight. I'm going to do whatever it is. And some people say don't do the weight loss thing because you can get a little bit That can get discouraging. I do think that
It's pretty tangible, though.
it's very tangible. That's the thing, is you could say get healthier. What does that even mean?
Right.
You want to have certain goals. I think that's one of the easiest goals you can hit is a weight goal where you can monitor. If you want to say, because then you can get into calorie count, you can get into, workout schedule, routine, things like that, and diet. So I think those are physical goals. Financial goals, you already spoke to that. How much money do I want to have in the bank? How many months?
Maybe you got 16-year-olds aren't gonna. You're not relate to this, but maybe you're 20 years old watching this. How much debt do you want to pay off? Something like that.
I want to be debt free by the end of 2020. Okay, how do I get there? How much do I need to pay toward the credit card? How little do I actually need to spend on these?
Right.
You know what I mean? So you start thinking about that. Intellectual goals is the reading goals. It's how much am I growing intellectually? What am I working toward? And again, I think reading is one of the best ways you can do it. So I would set a reading goal. We talked about this back in episode 2. Reading is incredibly, incredibly important, especially to be a godly young man. We need to know about things, right? We can't just know about.
I had a whole episode on this, by the way. If you want to,
Exactly.
I'm going to pull this. I think it was episode 31. You're going to have to check.
Oh man,
but I am
if it's
almost
31,
positive that was episode 31. You can keep rolling. But
Okay.
I think it was episode 31, the value of reading. But anyway,
If I can ever get my phone out
yeah,
here.
I'll let you pull that up in a second.
The last one is relational. And this is difficult because, once again, it's one of those, how do you set a relational goal? Accountability group. I really want to establish an accountability group. I want to be, if you're looking at social awkwardness, I want to engage, 3 people a day in conversation. Like, make it very doable for you. But at the same time, we really want to push ourselves in each one of these things. There's no point to set a goal that you're going to hit in 2 seconds. We want to push ourselves to really be better. And so from a relational perspective, the reason I added it, we can be amazing. The big thing going around is like disappear for 6 months and then come back and just show all the haters that you've changed. Okay, there's merit to some of those things. At the same time, we really want every godly young man to be working on relationships in his life where you have a better relationship with your parents by the end of the year. You have a better relationship with your girlfriend, your spouse, your wife, whatever it is, by the end of the year. You have a better relationship with the guys around you, maybe with the elders in your congregation. So be thinking about, what relationships do I really want to work on developing in 2024? Those are the types of goals we're talking about. You may have some that aren't on the spiritual, physical, financial, intellectual, relational. I'm sure we're missing some on there, but I think that's a good place to start, at least in terms of setting up for the future.
So we've looked at past, we looked at present, we looked at future, and again, kind of the main thread going through all this is keep all 3 of those in perspective. When we're talking about looking in the mirror, when we're talking about kind of examining yourself and heading into a new year, taking inventory of yourself, you got to consider all 3. You can't just consider the future, because then you're ignoring maybe mistakes you made in the past. You're ignoring the present. You can't just consider the present, because as we talked about, you got to have all 3. And so I appreciate Joe breaking it out this way. And I would encourage all of our watchers and listeners. Was it 31?
It's episode 31. That's unbelievable.
Let's go.
Wow,
man,
that is really good. Sorry.
I don't know how I pulled that out. That's crazy. 50 of these. Man.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. So again, I kind of already summarized. I don't know if you have anything you want to add there. It's so important that you take inventory of these things at any stage in your life. Not just, again, New Year's gives us the perfect time to. It's like, you might as well. You're starting a whole new year. Kind of like, Sundays, people, diet starts tomorrow type of thing, where they always want to start at the beginning of the week. It's just kind of a natural thing. But if you get, into May and you're like, man, things are not going well, reset in May. We get that it doesn't have to be on January 1st. Take advantage of it. That's all we're saying.
I would look for any change, any times of change, end of the school year, start of the school year. Every Sunday is a great one, at the start of every month. You may have big things, you hit a goal at work where, you get a raise, whatever it is. Take those as a time to really take inventory. You be proud of yourself in great ways, be hard on yourself in other ways. Look at yourself critically in the mirror. If you struggle with that, as we've talked about before, and that self-awareness, talk to other people. That'll help build it. But seriously, don't lie to yourself here. That's what this whole year is about, is like, man, how can we be better? All 50 episodes have been striving for greatness. That's why we wanted to end the year with this one. We got so many wheels, got a 4-part series coming up. We're excited about it. Lots of good content, but man, episode 50, last of 2023. Take inventory of this year. Have you striven for greatness in all that you've done? And how are you going to strive for greatness going into the future? That's kind of why we wanted to recap a little bit with episode 50.
Absolutely. So for the last few minutes, we're going to talk about we're going to do exactly what we just talked about with our podcast, kind of the state of the podcast. We're going to talk about past, present, future. And so, Joe, I'm curious, over the last year, like, so talk about maybe some of the goals that you think we have hit, maybe some goals we haven't, and then maybe kind of what we're looking towards for the future. I've kind of got my answer, but I wanted you to go first.
Basic goal. This is the most basic goal is I really wanted to just continue to the end of the year. I wanted to consistently put out a podcast, miss very few weeks. I think we missed 1 or 2, right? Total. I really wanted it to be a consistent thing. Anytime you're getting something off the ground, being like, okay, we're going to get to 1,000 episodes, pump the brakes.
But
right?
most podcasts don't make it past, what is it, episode 4 or something like that?
Truly. I didn't have any numbers on how many we'd hit, but what I had, I was thinking maybe, if we could hit 300, 400, 500, we're hitting those consistently. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done this year. I would say the biggest thing was, yes, I wanted to continue with it. I wanted to have 500 listeners, weekly listeners, somewhere around there if possible. Sometimes we go below, sometimes we've gone over. So those were, I would say, were kind of the most basic goals, but I would, sounds dumb. The biggest goal was just to help young men.
That's exactly right.
And to have, I'd love feedback, right? That's kind of at the beginning. It's like, man, if we could just get some feedback and see if this is actually helping, and we have.
It's been so cool, because that's what I was going to say. It's that's not tangible. Yeah, I know. Put out a podcast, some kind of digital media that is helping young men. Yeah. And what's been really cool for me, I guess probably a little bit more so than you, Joe, you've seen a little bit of it, but to have people come up and say, man, I really, really enjoy the Godly Young Men podcast. I never thought that would be the case. I mean, this we're not fooling ourselves. This doesn't do 2,000 views or anything where we've got listeners and watchers popping up all over the place. And so it is really cool that I got to go to Idaho and meet some guys, got to meet some at CYC that came up and said, we really love y'all's podcast, specifically the Godly Young Men podcast. And that's been really, really special. Not just because we want to get famous or anything. It's because they benefited from it. And it's helped them because, goodness, you were just looking at it. We've tackled a lot of subjects, like a lot of variety of different things. And we're still trying to come up with more things that we can help young men with, how to be more godly, how to strive for greatness in all aspects of life. And so it's just been really cool. So I would say that main goal has been hit for both of us, as far as reaching young men in maybe a way that they're not getting reached, from other people, I guess you might say. As far as the future goes for next year, one of the things that I really, really want to figure out, I haven't figured it out yet, is how to get a little bit more audience engagement, I guess you might say. We have some comments every now and then that we respond to, and we always appreciate those. We want those to continue. I don't know. This is where I'm not a YouTube marketer or anything like that. I am going to issue something. Joe's going to be completely caught off guard here. YouTube, we do pretty well on listening. YouTube views, we're still not getting a ton. And so I'm going to say, for this episode specifically, so for all of our faithful listeners, share. If we can get this episode to 500 views, we're going to do a special episode where we're going to basically give you a Zoom link that you can join us for an episode.
This is brand new to me.
Completely.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lofty goal. 500 views. We have not hit that since, I want to say, episode 10 or something like that. Andrew Tate episode got us close. We were at like 400 or something. But so we want to do something like that, but we're got to get to 500 views for something like that. But we'll send you a Zoom link, and you can join us for an episode. We can feature you live on the Godly Young Men podcast. But anyway, there you go. So caught you by surprise there. But as far as future goals, that's something we want to move towards. A little bit more audience engagement, something like that. Maybe some live episodes if we can figure out the best system for that. But how about you? Anything for the future that you want to talk about?
Numbers are always difficult because we can't specifically hit that. But I would like 1,000 a week. I think 1,000 per episode, maybe between YouTube, Spotify, all the various channels. I think if we could consistently hit 1,000, I think it's doable. Our other podcast does way over that. Think Deeper, so check it out if you don't know that one. But I think we can hit that.
But to that point, if you're watching right now, listening right now, let people know about the Godly Young Men podcast. Let people, and again, it's because we want more people to be godly young men. We want more young men to be godly, and we want this to affect and impact. And we have a lot of fun doing this. We hope you have a lot of fun listening to and enjoying.
And we got a snazzy new studio too. Not to cut you off.
Exactly.
So we want to make a lot more of these with these comfortable chairs. So
that's exactly right. So share the episodes. All we're saying. If you got one, it's like, man, this one was really good, way better than some of their other ones. Send it out. Post it, whatever it is. And as I said a second ago, keep letting us know the feedback. Keep letting us know, hey, I've got a thought on this. Episode suggestions we're always open to. And
right.
we did one, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago that one of the guys I met in Idaho suggested. And so we're always open to stuff like that. Joe, real quick, because we're running out of time. Yeah. Top three episodes so far that we've recorded.
Okay,
at 50. You got to pick 3.
Yes, I was looking at this. I have to say number 1. I'll go 1, 2, 3 because 3, 2, 1 is a little bit too difficult. Strive for Greatness, as lame,
so basic,
as basic as it is. I was so pumped in the first one, and I actually think that it went off pretty well.
That's my number 1 too. So.
Okay, yeah, so basic.
Yeah, it's number 1.
I had a couple in there. I think Preparing to Lead Your Family was a really good one, and I was proud of that one. I thought that was really good. And the other one, man, I had 2 that I was going in between, but the last one was Take Yourself Seriously.
Yep,
I like to take yourself seriously. Make sure that you're. I don't know. There's a lot of goofies. There's a lot of these actually. As I was looking back through, my memory's terrible, so I'm like, we recorded that.
I also don't think Joe rewatches them. I have to rewatch them because I do the editing, and so there's probably a lot that Joe would rewatch and be like, "Oh, I can't remember. I didn't remember we said that."
Yeah, I do sometimes with my son. He's a big fan. He calls them the Gym Podcast. Is what he says. He loves it. So anyway, how about you?
So I would go Strive for Greatness 1. I think I referenced this in the Confidence versus Arrogance. I always love that episode, so that's probably number 2. And then Take Yourself Seriously would be in my top 3 as well, but I'll give a different answer. Get Over Yourself. I like that episode a lot. And then just like for fun for us, the reading episode I just enjoy because I like talking about reading. I don't think that was the most enjoyable for everybody else, but
I like the Get Cultured one just because of course I sound like a snob, but I like the Get Cultured. It was so whimsical and so dumb and like it. Kind of unnecessary, but at the same time,
definitely the most unique one that we've done.
But
we're out of time. Yeah. Drop your top 3. What are your top 3 episodes in the comments? Again, we want more engagement, so let us know. We'll be back next week, Joe, in 2024, the day after New Year's Day, right? Yeah, so January 2nd will be the next episode 51. We thank you very much for joining us with our brand new chairs and studio decor for episode 50 of the Golly Young Men podcast. Thanks for watching.